It's Lynnea for LDRS Creative, and today's video is a little bit longer than my usual projects, and that is because I'm going to be taking all 4 of the new Stack and Collage stamp sets from the LDRS Creative Fall, Winter, and Holiday 2023 collection, and I'm going to make 4 different cards. So you're going to see me make a fall card, a Halloween card, a winter card, and then a Christmas themed card. I'll make 1 card with each of these 4 stamp sets. These stack and collage stamp sets are really fun because you can use them along with either of the 2 ledger stamps from LDRS Creative, or you can do more of a free form style and just stamp on your background. I'm going to be showing you both methods today. Okay, so let's get started with the fall themed card. For this one, I'm going to be using the Cooler Days Collage 4x6 stamps, and this one's going to be more of a free-form style. I'm not going to use the ledger stamps. I'm just going to stamp on my background. So what I like to start with, whether I'm using a ledger or if I'm not using a ledger, I like to start with my sentiments and kind of have that be the focal point and then build out around that. So I'm going to start by choosing some of the sentiments from this Cooler Days Collage stamp set. And I love these sentiments because they are a mix of different sizes and fonts, and there are also cute little definition stamps, and I love to use them because it'll take one word and give the definition in a very small font so it's not distracting from your project. It kind of ties everything in together. You'll see that for almost every project I make today, I start by laying those sentiments down where I think I want them to go, and then I look at the icons from the stamp set and start working on building out my design. No, I'm not going to lay all of my stamps down on my card front and plan out the whole thing. I'm going to just start with where I know I want to go, and I'll fill out from there. So I'm kind of playing around with 3 sentiments: Hello Fall, Thankful for You, and then the definition stamp for autumnal. And I know that I want to use the pumpkins and the apple because I really love apples and pumpkins during fall. I'm not a big pumpkin spice person, but I love the look of pumpkins, and I love how just walking outside it smells like apples. I live in an area where we have a lot of apple trees, so I love to use apples during the fall. So I've stamped those 3 sentiments in black. You can stamp them in any color that you like. I just prefer to have a black sentiment so it's bold and visible. And then, just like I said I was going to do, I'm going to start filling in. So I started with the pumpkins, and there are 2 sizes of pumpkins in this Cooler Days stamp set. And so I stamped the large one on the left and the smaller one on the right. And then I'm just going to keep filling in. I have the little apple, and I'm going to grab the acorn, which is super small. And I should mention that you're going to see me use a mix of my stamping platform and a small acrylic block. The great thing about these collage stamp sets are that the stamps are small. So if you're good with an acrylic block, you're going to make a perfect card. I am not very good with an acrylic block. I can never seem to get a good impression, and I think it's because I'm not holding the block correctly. I have to remind myself to give even pressure. I tend to give a lot of pressure on the left side of my acrylic block and not on the right. So I am much better with a stamping platform. So even though these stamps are small, and I would probably be faster with an acrylic block, I usually stick to my stamping platform. So here's my finished background. It's all finished. I cut it down about an inch or so on both sides. I took an inch off of the side and an inch off the top. And now I wanted to just bring your eye into the center of that panel. So I grabbed one of my favorite LDRS Creative stencils. This is the plaid stencil. It's a basic staple stencil for me. And I'm going to use iced tea hybrid ink and just blend around the edges of that stencil. And I'm keeping my ink blending very light. I just want to create a highlight in the center so your eye goes directly towards that free-form collage that I have in the center of my panel. I added that panel onto a craft card base, and then I added some brown shimmer watercolor, and card number 1 is finished. It was so easy to do, and I love the way it turned out. I'm going to go ahead and bring out my Wicked 4x6 stamp set, and this collage set is perfect for Halloween. I'm going to change things up a little bit here, and I'm going to use the ledger stamp from LDRS Creative. This is one of 2 ledger stamps. This is the first one. And I also created a tag for my card using the Any Size Tags dies. I created this tag based off of the size of the ledger, so it's a little bit taller than 4 inches. I wanted it to be able to perfectly fit my ledger stamp right in the center there. I stamped that with alloy ink, which is a gray ink from LDRS Creative. And now I'm just going to, just like I did before, I'm going to fill in my design. I grabbed a purple ink and the 2 bat images, and I'm going to stamp in the center of the ledger and just fill that up like a little background. And you can see here that this is where I'm going to switch over to using a block. For this design, I'm going to be using a lot of the stamps that are distressed. Some of the sentiments in this Wicked collage stamp set have a distressed look to them where the whole stamp image is not fully filled in. So if I'm using my stamping block and I happen to make an error where I don't stamp the bat down completely, that's okay, it's going to tie in with the rest. So I chose to use my block instead of the stamping platform for the majority of this tag. You can see there that I also have the letters to spell out the word boo. And I'll show you in a little bit, but these are from the Kringle Alpha's Jumbo Upper and the Kringle Alpha's Jumbo Lower dies. I cut out the letters to spell the word boo, and those are going to be going in the center of my tag, kind of overlaying that batty background that I made. I'm using some traditional Halloween color inks. I'm going to be bringing in some orange, I have the green, and I have the purple there, and then I'll have some black as well. And so this whole tag is just going to be very classic Halloween colors. You see me here grabbing the October and the 31 stamps, and I'm going to be placing those down at the bottom of my tag. And for that, I'm going to bring in my stamping platform. I usually stamp with a stamping platform if I'm doing sentiments, because I want those sentiments to be bold. So this gives me the opportunity to stamp multiple times. So even though this stamp is distressed and it's supposed to look that way, I can take this green ink, and because it's a hybrid ink, I can stamp it multiple times and deepen that color so that it'll tie in with that spider web I stamped in the top left-hand corner, but it's going to be a little bit darker. I'm also going to stamp that 31 in orange ink, and then I'll fill in with some sentiments from here. And I'm going to choose them and just kind of fill in this ledger stamp, and then once I'm done, I will glue the word boo right in the center here. I ended up loving the way this tag turned out. I haven't ever stamped a background like what I did with the bats, and I thought that was super cute. So don't forget to take these little stamps and stamp them repeatedly to create a cute little background. Now for the background of my card, I wanted to keep it simple, but have some little pops of color. So I grabbed some black and some orange cardstock, and I went over to my paper trimmer and I cut 1/2-inch strips. They are longer than they need to be, and that's okay. I'll trim off the excess. But I'm just going to start at the bottom of my card base. I added some liquid adhesive all over, and then I just stacked those stripes up, and I popped up my tag in the center with some foam tape. And this Halloween card is done. I love this one. This one's probably one of my favorites that I made today. Next up, I'm going to be working with the Bundle Up Collage 4x6 stamps. And for this one, I'm going back to that free form style of stamping where I won't use the ledger. Instead, I'm just going to keep everything focused in the center of my card panel and just stamp some sentiments and some icons. And I'm also going to be making this a 1-layer card. 1-layer cards are always a challenge for me. I love dimension, I love to create backgrounds, and I love to stack those 2 techniques together, kind of creating a background and then putting some dimension on it and popping up your focal point. So for me, a 1-layer card is always a challenge, and I wanted to show you how easy 1-layer cards are with these collage stamp sets. So again, I'm starting with my sentiments because I know I want those to be kind of the focal point of my card. And once I narrow down my sentiments, for this one I'm going to be using Hello Winter, which is a larger script, And then I have one that's a smaller, like a print style that says hat, gloves, and boots. So I know that I want to use the hat, the gloves, and the boots icons and kind of just create that right in the center of my card. So I have my sentiments stamped with black ink. And from there, I'm going to grab my LDRS Creative Hybrid inks and just stamp those icons right under the words that correlate with them. So I stamped the gloves with pink ink right under the word gloves, and then the hat with purple ink off to the left, and then I'll stamp the boots with blue ink over towards the right. Now you're going to see here that I probably should have stamped those boots a little bit more over to the right. It doesn't look very balanced. That's okay, because I'm going to come in with those little snowflake images and just a small acrylic block, and I'm going to create kind of a little trail of snowflakes going from the top left of my card to the bottom right of my card. So kind of just a little flurry of snowflakes to bring your eye towards the center of the card. It was kind of simple, just having the sentiments and the icons, and I wanted to add something else, but keep it one layer. So I'm going to grab a gray ink, a pink ink, and then purple ink, and just create that flurry of snowflakes going diagonally across my card. I couldn't help myself, and I needed to add a little something to this card. So I grabbed my shimmer pen and just dotted the center of each of the snowflakes, and then also added little dots here and there across my card to fill in that snowflake pattern. So now I have some shimmer and some shine, and it's still a one-layer card. All right, we're moving on to the last card. This one uses the 'Tis the Season collage 4x6 stamps. And for this one, I'm going to be creating with the Ledger 2 3x4 stamp set. And this one's going to be a Christmas scene. I knew immediately when I saw this stamp set that I wanted that center portion of my Ledger stamp to be a Santa Claus themed scene. So I'm going to start by stamping this Ledger 2 3x4 stamp, and I'll stamp that with alloy ink, which is the LDRS Creative Gray ink. You can stamp this ledger in any color that you want. I tend to lean towards gray or towards a lighter color so that the ledger pattern itself kind of fades to the background and your eye is more drawn towards the colorful stamped images that are filled in. So once I have my ledger stamped down, it's just kind of randomly placed on my card panel because I will be cutting this down, so I didn't need to center it. I knew I wanted to create that Santa sleigh scene. So I'm going to take the 2 pine trees that are in this stamp set, and I'm going to stamp them. I love these cute and whimsical pine trees. They end up in every one of my cards that I create with this stamp set. I stamped the first one with an olive ink, and then I'm going to stamp the second one in a darker evergreen ink, so that they can layer on top of each other and give that depth and dimension of the 2 different greens. Once I have that done, I'm going to go back to my stamp set, and there are these cute little images where it's the reindeer and Santa's sleigh, and I wanted it to look like Santa and the reindeer are flying over tops of the trees on Christmas Eve. I'm going to stamp those with black so that they stand out, and while I had my black ink out, I also stamped the sentiments that I wanted around the remainder of my ledger panel. I wanted to create some layered stockings, and I needed a really light brown ink. So here's a little trick that you can do, and it's called generational stamping. The LDRS Creative Inks are hybrid inks, which is a mix of a dye and a pigment ink, and so there are a lot of techniques you can do, and one of them is generational stamping. I took my iced tea hybrid ink, and you can see up in the top there where the stockings are, that's the first generation. That is the true color of the ink. But if you stamp it again, you'll get a lighter color of that same ink. So that's what I did to create those stockings, because those are layering stamps. And so the background of the stocking, the base layer, is that second generation of the iced tea ink, and then I layered some red and green ink on top of there. I'm also just going in with my blocks, and I'm continuing to fill in. I stamped the ho 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 over on the right side. I'm doing some more second generation stamping so that I can have that same light iced tea background for the presents, and I'm going to layer with red and green inks for them as well. and I'm just going to keep on playing. The greatest thing about these stack and collage stamps really is that there is no right or wrong way to use them. You can stack, stamp, collage however you want to do it, and you can always mix in other items too, like how I mixed in those die cut sentiments to form the word boo on the Halloween card. You could have a die cut sentiment in the center of this panel and it would be so cute. So there's my finished little collaged scene. And for my background, I am taking the quilted plaid A2 cover plate and I die cut that into white cardstock. And I had planned to go white on white for this card, but then I decided to bring in a little bit of a happy red color. So I grabbed my LDRS Creative Lipstick Jungle ink, and I'm just going to ink blend the edges of this card. I have that panel that's going to go in the center, so I don't need to go all the way across this card panel, just the edges will be fine. And I'm keeping my ink darker on the edges so that I get that nice crisp edge, and then kind of feathering it in a little bit. This whole panel, it'll look like it's red once I pop that the ledger panel onto there. But I really loved the dimension that the ink blending gives because it kind of grabs onto that die cut background and really makes it pop. So let's take a look at all 4 of the cards that I made today. Here's my Christmas project using the 'Tis the Season Collage 4x6 stamps. Next up, we have my 1-layer card using the Bundle Up Collage 4x6 stamps. And then we have the Wicked Collage 4x6 stamps. And last, but technically the first card we made, is with the Cooler Days Collage 4x6 stamps. That's it. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for joining me. I have listed and linked all of the products I used in these cards in the video description below. And I'll see you soon. Bye!